All right. Howdy, howdy, howdy. What's up, friends? Happy Monday. Hope everyone had an amazing weekend. We are going to unpack a very, very exciting topic today. You guys know the drill. We're going to give a couple minutes for everyone to come through. But today we are talking about the seasonality of direct mail. When do we stop mailing? When do we start mailing again? What are the kind of times that we really have to be more mindful in terms of like, hey, these few months or these few weeks, watch out for them and either stop mailing or just understand that the KPIs are going to look a little bit different. And we're going to talk about what you should do when mailers flop, right? Just the nature of the beast. Mailers do flop. Happens to me all the time. You can't really avoid that, right? Well, there's one thing you can do to avoid that. We are going to share that. Before we dive into it, as some of you may or may not know, share the link right there. Our in-person mastermind is going down in Las Vegas, October 28th and October 29th. Landinvestor.co/event. We released the pre-sale tickets on Friday. We're already about 40% of the way sold out, which frankly bananas. I didn't think they would sell out that quickly. We got 100 seats in total. So there's, 40 some odd people that have already secured their seat. For the first 4 weeks, we're doing massively discounted pricing. For Leah members, there's also a 50% off discount. You guys will see inside the private Discord channels. Dennis, what's up, man? How are you?
What's up, brother? How we doing?
Doing well, man. Doing well. I was just giving the rundown on the mastermind. We're about 40% of the way sold out. I'm going to give you guys just a little quick teaser, too, on some of the stuff that we're going to be covering. Now, two things I want to share with you, okay? First thing, this is not your standard mastermind, right? A lot of these masterminds, they charge ridiculous sums for the ticket, and then they just bullshit. They take you to do these silly little activities, and they're cute, and they make you feel warm and fuzzy. But we're here to, A, make connections, B, learn some cool shit, and C, have some fun, right? And so we've really optimized for that. And because of that, we've been able to offer prices that I just think are the most fair, right? You shouldn't have to pay multiple four figures to end up in a place like this, right? So quick rundown of some of the stuff that we're going to be covering here. So it's going to be a Saturday and it's going to be a Sunday event. It's from 9 a.m. PST to 6 p.m. PST, both Saturday and Sunday. We're doing a private dinner Saturday night to 4 or 5 special land investors that want to come and get some one-on-one time, kind of a VIP dinner, if you will. So I'm going to be banging things out, starting it off Saturday. I'm going to be sharing some stories that have never been told before that I think, frankly, should just get the group fired up, right? I'm not one to be motivational, but we're gonna set the bar pretty high. We're gonna get the group really, really pumped. I've got stuff that I've never shared before that I'm a little nervous to share, frankly. Michael Bull's going to come on. He's going to talk about his journey transitioning from wholesaler to land investor and what that jump has been like. There's so many people here that are kind of in that same boat. They're a fix and flipper. Maybe that you like Dennis used to do sub 2 or wholesaling. They're making this transition into land. We're going to talk about what that journey was like. We've got a land investor coming on talking about how he's bought thousands of properties without ever sending direct mail. We're going to talk about using creativity in the land business, thinking outside of the box. We've got Leah Coach Ryland coming on talking about making a transition from engineer to land investor and taking a data-centric approach to market selection, to pricing, and really, frankly, to his entire business. Dennis, the guy right here, is going to talk about mastering acquisition, sales, and negotiations. We'll probably go do some live kind of call reviews as well. Mm-hmm. We're going to do a Leah Coach's hot seat. So we're going to get all the coaches lined up. Group is going to rattle off questions, and we're going to go one by one, and each person's going to give their answer to that question, which I think will be pretty insightful. We're going to close out Saturday with a big vision casting exercise, defining your dream life and how that relates to your land business and how you should approach your land business based off that exercise. It just blows my mind how many people don't know what they want in this life, right? They think they want something, or maybe they've absorbed views from those around them, but they've never taken the chance to clarify what it is that they actually want. And once we have that level of clarity, it makes it a lot easier to start having rules for life, being principled in our life and knowing what we should do and what we shouldn't do. And that can be applied to our business as well. I always say, it seems like life pretty much gives you what you want. You just got to know what you want, and you got to be okay with however the heck it gets delivered to you, because you don't know how it's going to get delivered to you or when it's going to get delivered to you. But with that level of clarity, the world starts kind of shifting, and it just seems like things get pushed into your orbit. It might not be how you expect it to be, and maybe sometimes you got to swallow a tough pill that you don't want to swallow, but it does seem like those outcomes are going to be delivered as long as you have some level of clarity. Sunday, we've got a bunch of cool kind of intro opening stuff that we're doing, some priming exercises for the group. Clint Tinner is going to come on, talk about the future of the land business, talk about how the industry is maturing and steps we can take to stay sharp. We got Ajay and Ben coming on, talking about balancing the visionary and integrator roles within the business, as well as what it's like bringing a partner into your business, the pros and the cons. I think a lot of people, like Dennis as well, have a partner in their business or feel like they want a partner. We're going to kind of break down when it's the right fit, when it's not the right fit, and if you do bring one on, kind of the rules for the road. We got Kyle Bryant coming on, talking about launching a fund and exclusively going after value add deals. Kyle's kind of gone from, classic bread and butter land flipper to going after monster 7-figure, even 8-figure. I want to talk about how he's done that and how he's actually launched a fund to go along with taking those deals down, which I think his fund just went live. And we got a whole bunch of other stuff coming through the pipeline in terms of guest speakers. We're going to do a really cool student hot seat session where we're going to go and take people from the group, sit them down in front of the group, and we're going to grill them about their business and give them real-time feedback on what they can do to improve. Imagine like a 10-minute intensive one-on-one coaching session from the group of coaches. So it's going to be a badass event, suffice to say. I'm really excited about it.
I think that's probably going to be my favorite part, is that hot seat part. Because I've done them before and I've sat in them, and just having somebody like pick apart your business is it's the best thing about it. It really puts it into perspective. It's awesome.
Yeah, man. I think frankly, like the cost of one-on-one coaching is, for a lot of people that are just getting started, is an outlandish sum to pay. It's just like doesn't really make sense. But to get that level of one-on-one support from not just me, but 3, 4, 5 other coaches, as well as the lineup of guest speakers, it's like you're paying each person $20,000 for a session of one-on-one coaching, and you're getting it all at once from this whole group. It's a really, really cool way just to get very tactical, hands-on feedback. It's also a cool way too to leverage the knowledge of the whole group, because there's going to be 100 land investors there too. So we're also going to be just beyond just the coaches. You're also going to get the totality of the knowledge in the room. I was going through this lineup today and I was like, this is probably the list of the most successful land investors I know coming into one room. It's pretty effing powerful, frankly. And I think it's something that the land space has been deprived of, which is community. And we're not trying to bogart it with giving ridiculous price points, right? If you're a non-LEA member, it's $300 for a ticket for the pre-sale. That's a no-brainer, right? It's an absolute no-brainer. Anyways, today we're going to be talking about when mailers flop, seasonality of mailing and marketing. Dennis, do you want to give some context to the group in terms of what you've just experienced in your business?
Yeah, so I'm actually just pulling that up right now. So I'm just looking back. So we had some successes, but we also had some flops, right? And I feel like this is just kind of normal in the business, right? You're going to get some ups, you're going to get some downs. But it's just kind of funny how we mailed 6 counties in a row, and one we got like 10 contracts out of, and then the other ones we got crickets. Yep. Like absolute crickets. So is it the market? Is it seasonality? We don't really know. Is it our copy? That's what we were trying to figure out. So I popped into LEA this morning and grabbed a few other people, and we kind of like just brainstormed on this to see, what everybody else is kind of experiencing in their business. And it seems like for some people, they actually mailed the exact same counties that I did. Yep. And 2 of them that mailed the same county got no responses. I got 10 contracts. Where's the parallel? It's so lumpy and weird how it works, but it's just funny. Yep. And then same thing on the caveat, like I mailed the same county as they did, and they got a contract. I didn't even get a cricket. So it's just a funny parallel. So yeah, just talking about like that. Yeah, that's pretty
cool,
much
man. Well, it's a topic I'm very passionate about. And one thing this drum that I always beat is that there are actually the vast majority of people coming in to build a land business are typically first-time entrepreneurs, right? So some of these things that to me, I'm like, dude, this is common, this is obvious, feel not so obvious to other people, right? And it can be really concerning and scary and all those things. Now, I've got a whole agenda of what we're going to go through here today. But the first thing that I cannot stress enough, this is like my number one kind of framework for thinking about marketing. I want everyone to take a pen and a paper. I want you to write this down. I want you to literally drill this and imprint this into your brain. This is what the saying is, okay? When you're marketing, you're not marketing to a standing army, you're marketing to a moving target. And what does that mean? Well, it means when I go and send up, 5,000 pieces of direct mail, and if I get responses or don't get responses, is not representative of the effectiveness of the marketing, right? Because it's a moving target. So I can mail that, flop, someone else could mail it and have a huge win, right? So much of what we do in marketing is the right message at the right time to the right person. And some of that's just totally out of our control, right? Some of it's just totally out of our control. A good example of is you mailing a county where you get 10 contracts and someone else gets crickets, right?
Yep.
There's just so much of that is just outside of our control. But what can we control? We can control the frequency of marketing, the quantity of marketing, the markets we decide to play in. Mm-hmm. One thing that I also want to throw on top of that, and again, I cannot stress that point enough. Once I started to just come to terms with the fact that I'm always marketing to a moving target and my results are going to be lumpy as a byproduct of that, it changed my whole idea around marketing, both in my land business, but even here in Leah, right? If I send out an email and say, hey, my calendar is open tomorrow. I've got 3 spots for phone calls. Who wants to hop on it? I could do that one day and get 0 responses. I could do that the next day and get 30 responses. It's not really indicative of the quality of the marketing. It's that right time, right place, right message. And so some of it is just like, you got to stay consistent with the stuff to see the fruits of your labor actually come to fruition, right? So yeah, that's the first thing. The second thing that I want to really, really advocate to you guys is that because we spend so much time finding great markets, this allows us to have confidence to double down and double dip on these markets, even when they fail. You see, most land investors do not spend any time or hardly any time finding markets. And what that causes is they have what happened to Dennis, right? They go and send some mailers, they flop, they say, well, on to the next. This must be a good representation of the fact this is a shitty market. Sometimes it's the case, but majority of the time it's not the case, right? We've done our homework and we have great markets. We need to keep on doubling down and keep on working them. The analogy here is Dennis, imagine you had an acquisition manager and they followed up once to a lead and say, Dennis, these leads suck, man. No one's calling me back. And you look at they followed up once. What would you say? Say you're out of your mind.
Yeah, you haven't done the job.
Haven't done the job. Why is it any different for direct mail? It's not, right? It's not. But so the same thing, if that list has unqualified prospects, well, we probably aren't going to want to spend a ton of time following up. Same thing with their unqualified markets. But if they're good markets, the vast majority of the time, it's worth continuing to market to it. Again, that comes back to that moving target concept. Now, I will say, here's like the asterisk, the caveat. There are some markets out there where the data is just bad, right? It's a minority situations, but you can run into a situation where the data is just bad. Either the county data is legitimately bad, like go try to pull data for South Dakota or counties in Wyoming and tell me what happens, right? The data is horrible. There's not much we can do there. Or the data provider is bad, right? I see so many people that are saying some of my mailings aren't working. I say, well, where are you getting your data from? And they say, I'm using, what's that cheap platform everyone likes to use for $99 a month?
PropStream.
PropStream. They're using PropStream. We go look at the records and it's like, dog, that person sold a property 3 years ago. So you know, there is a kind of a data component, but for most people here, especially in Leah, but most people on this call, and I imagine that's really not the issue, right? It's usually, hey, we're using data tree or land vision and we've got quality data. Okay, so let's talk about the seasonality of land, just in general, right? Not even just in terms of acquisitions, but just land in general. You guys, if I pulled back the curtain and showed you inside my business, you'd say for the last 2 weeks, everything's gone down, right? My new buyer leads, new seller leads, response to text, everything has fallen down. What I've noticed, this is anecdotal, this is just Sumner science. I should trademark that, Sumner science. Here's what I've noticed though. End of November, so Thanksgiving until New Year's, it's like no man's land. It's like cricket zone. What I've noticed is that the summer is not inherently all bad. But what I have seen is like the 3 to maybe 4 weeks leading up to when kids go back to school seems to be the worst time for responses outside of Thanksgiving through New Year's. The thought process there that I've seen this play out every single year is I think people are doing their one last hurrah for summer, their one last trip, their one last whatever before the kids go back to school. I don't remember exactly when kids go back to school. I'm saying the 15th to the 20th of August. You got kids, Dennis. What is it?
Ours are after Labor Day in New Jersey. It depends on your heat. The heat, like if you're in Texas, they're going back and like they go back in August or something like that.
Okay.
Try to get out early.
So I guess it is circumstantial. What I've noticed here in California, I think, is the kiddo is always at the middle of August, so somewhere around there. And it did change based on what school district I was in. So I've seen this play out time and time again. Now, what's cool is that I don't just have this business. I have Leah as well and our software company as well. So like I can also see the metrics within those companies. We see the same exact thing, right? We had well over 100 people apply for Leah In July, 31 people join our programs. And then coming into August is a call book volume drops, lead flow drops, inquiries drop, everything drops. I could even get more macro and go look at our YouTube channel. Views drop, subscribers, everything is dropping this time of year. I don't think that's a coincidence, right? And you go poll the Leah group like you did on your call today, and there's a few people saying, yo, my mailer's bombed too. And you're saying the same thing. That's not a coincidence. And I've seen this since the beginning of my land investing career. So I do think that there is a seasonality component. Now, in our business, I just turn off all direct mail when it comes to Thanksgiving to New Year's. We still do cold texting. We're still going to list our properties, obviously, but I do just turn it off because it's like a 2-month stretch. Well, yeah, not quite 2 months, but month and a half stretch where things get really bad. It's because people are traveling. There's a lot more stuff going through the postal service, right? Like your stuff just gets lost in the shuffle. Someone gets a stack of 30 letters versus there's typical 3 letters. We just get lost in the shuffle. So I do turn off direct mail at that time of year. I don't turn off direct mail when it comes to this period here, though. Still market. The reason being, what I found is it takes about 6 to 8 weeks to get a full, I mean, not even a full read, but like an 80% approximation on how successful a campaign was. So one of the things that I want to throw on here, and we'll ask you about this, I see a lot of people prejudging results way too soon. And they might have been biased because their first, second, or third campaign, they got a contract 2 weeks in and 5 leads on the third week. And so that's the new expectation. Truth is, I mean, I think it's really closer to 8 weeks until you get a full read on the performance of a campaign. Another asterisk to add to that, though. This is the cool thing about the land business. I've had so many campaigns that I've just written off. I said, that was a doozy. Man, I got some bruises on that one. 4 months, 6 months, 8 months. I even got a lead at the end of July that came from a mailer 2.5 years ago. Where that one deal makes the math incredible in that campaign, right? So that's the cool thing, is because we are playing with relatively cheap marketing and such big numbers on our deals, it only takes one deal to make a mailer wildly profitable, right? So what I've seen is like I will write off a campaign. I say this campaign stunk. 6 months later, I get a contract. We spent $3,000 on the campaign for 6,000 mailers or whatever it may be, and we go and make 50 G's off that one deal. It's like, that was a great campaign. So you do need a long enough time horizon and a large enough sample size to see those cards starting to fall into your favor. Dennis, can you give me some insight though? The 6 campaigns that bombed, how recent were all of those? Like, where are they at in the cycle?
All right. So one of them we mailed June 9th. Okay. Another one was also June 9th. Another one was June 27th. And then another one, and the last 2 were 7/15 and 7/17. Okay. So those 2 I still have hopes for, because just when they got delivered. But the 6/9 ones, I feel like they're still kind of on the end. But then again, I just got a deal from one of the campaigns, not saying mailed it the same day, same county. I got another deal from it. Yep. Buy for, I think, 60, sell for like 140.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was like 2 months later.
It's the name of the game, bro. It's the name of the game. And that continues to happen. The more mail that you've sent out, you just get these weird straggler deals that fall in. Here's my next question to you, though. So those ones that were mailed back in June, can you list off the size for each mailer?
So I got 1,300 pieces, 1,800 pieces, 2,200 pieces, 1,500 pieces, 1,450 pieces.
Okay. Those are decent sizes. They're not like huge sample sizes, but they're decent. They're better than some, right? I do see a lot of people, again, I always like to say, confusing the micro for the macro, right? And that happens both on the size of our mailers, and say, I sent out 500 mailers and it didn't work. This market sucks. It's like, no, this is tiny sample size. Like, I mean, it's definitely so case by case, market to market, and price point to price point in terms of what we're going after. But like, yeah, 2,000 mailers should give you like a pretty decent read-ish. Because again, that goes back to that moving target concept. I can send 2,000 mailers. In fact, I always bring up this example. If you're in leave, you've heard me talk about this, but I think it's worth noting. There was a campaign that I sent last year in Los Animas County, Colorado. I sent it out. I forget what it was. It's definitely under 3,000 mailers, probably in like the mid to high 2,000 mailer range. Sent it out, 0 responses, like nothing, like straight up crickets. But I like the market, right? met all my criteria. So I wasn't deterred. I said, I'm going to go mail it again. So I did let it season a little bit. I think I wasn't quite at a quarter. I think I was closer to 2 months before I mailed that. A little bit of an eager beaver. Mailed it again, same exact list. And I had actually shifted her pricing. Ironically, I lowered the pricing. We went and got 3 deals off that campaign, same exact size. And each deal was like a 30 or 40K profit, right? So like cumulatively too, when you go and combine that, I mean, like in total, let's say it's 6,000 mailers. So in total, let's say it cost me like, I don't know, 3,200, 3,500 to be conservative with data, with mail, all that stuff, to go and make almost 100 grand. I don't really care that the first one flopped, right? The numbers are so rigged in our favor that all it takes is just like one of those campaigns to really work, right? So this is point number 2, right? Prejudging mailers too soon. Again, confusing the micro for the macro. That applies obviously to the size of the mailers. It also applies to like just not having a long enough runway to see these things come to fruition. And so people will say, Summer, I sent this out 6 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, it totally bombed. Like Dennis just said, 2 months later, he gets a deal that's going to make them 60K plus. Just the nature of the beast, right? And again, if we've done our homework on the market selection side, it's like, have no fear, right? Have no fear. Those cards will fall in your favor. Now, if you're going after crummy little markets, you don't know how to pick markets, okay, have some fear, right? Because like the best case scenario is very much capped. So for example, if I'm going and mailing a Costilla County, like everyone and their mom does in this business, the outcomes are capped. Like I'm not going to go land a big deal there. And so if I bomb a mailer, it's like my margins are thin. My margins are tight. I can't afford that. But since the strategy that we go after, the deals can be so large in nature for the spread that they deliver, we're okay having a few that bomb, right? Because you can go make, like Dennis did, 60K on one deal. Dude, that more than pays for probably all of your marketing for the year, right?
But we did, like that's what I'm saying, we flopped on all these markets, but we have I think it's 12 contracts in total right now.
Yeah.
And the 12 contracts that we have, 4 of them are pretty much set to close, and that's a pipeline profit of over 260 grand.
And what was the spend on all these campaigns?
Probably less than 10 grand so far.
So think about that, right?
Yeah.
Dennis is stressed. Hey, 6 campaigns bombed. This is where we confuse the micro for the macro. Zoom out. We spent less than 10 grand to make over almost $250,000. It's like,
no.
Come on, man. Come on. And so I think a lot of times we can get so hung up on the day-to-day, the performance of this one mailer, 2 mailers, whatever it may be, and we forget what's actually happening on the high level, right? Like what's going on with the KPIs. That's why it's like ROAS over everything. Just show me the ROAS. I don't really care. Not even on like a mailer to mailer. Like show me like my quarterly, my monthly, my annual ROAS. I'm not really too concerned unless I really start to see that dip over a long period of time. Okay, let's talk about response rates increasing off of remailing. Okay. I think this was a question that got brought up on the call earlier today. So the answer to this is yes and no. This is not it's not a linear relationship to where first mailer, I get 0.25%, second mailer, I get 1/3%, third mailer, I get 0.5%. Like it's not going to be this linear relationship where every single mailer stacks to get a higher response, but cumulatively, you will get a higher response. If that makes sense, right? So what do I mean by that? Let's say we send out one campaign and we expect 0.25%. Cumulatively, if we add up, let's call it 8 mailers to the same market, they all might be at 1/3% cumulative, because there's a cumulative effect of them all working together, right? A lot of the stats in direct mail, they definitely are industry to industry. But if you look at a lot of the case studies on direct mail, they all fall back on really 1 of 2 numbers. It's either 7 touches or 8 touches to maximize response rate from direct mail. They say it kind of at that point, it starts to taper. So that cumulative effect isn't as strong anymore. That's, I can tell you, substantially more than almost any land investor is doing. And actually, if you look at a lot of these case studies, they actually advocate mailing a lot more frequently than even we do. When they talk about having multiple touches even in a 1 month period, that's a little bit extreme. And luckily, we don't really have to do that in this business, right? Like the direct mail as a channel is still very undersaturated, even though people that have been here since 2012 complain, I used to be able to send 1,000 letters and get 3 deals. Okay, well, that's crazy. The metrics are still really strong, right? This goes back to that concept of the salesperson following up with a prospect once. we would be pissed, right? And any of my businesses, we hold really high standards to how much we follow up. And so it's the same thing with direct mail, right? Direct mail, yes, is a marketing channel, right? Which is a little different than literally like a salesperson on the phone. But also in the same vein, direct mail is like a little mini salesperson going out there for you and doing a lot of the heavy lifting. So there's actually more overlap than what you might think for other marketing channels, right? Look at any other, I always like drawing parallels between like Facebook ads and direct mail, because I just think it's an interesting comparison, right? And Facebook ads are way more popular, they're kind of all the rage compared to direct mail. But like the way Facebook shows these ads that's really smart, right? It knows this is the group that it's going to resonate with the most, so it shows it to them first, and then it works through a list of like most likely to least likely, then starts over, showing that to again, starts over, showing it to again. Now, after a while, you start to fatigue that audience, and you have to change the ad creative. But even Facebook algorithmically goes from like the now buyers to like the maybe buyers, but shows it to them multiple times, just flows through them. And so if you look at like all these marketing platforms, no matter what the industry is, it's like consistent message over time is the power move. That's how we get the results. And that's because it's that moving target concept. So look at what I always tell land investors is like, if you're mailing once a quarter, you are like in the top percentile. Like most people ain't doing that. If you really are bullish on a market, maybe you could mail more frequently than that. I would be a little bit concerned until I've proven out that market, right? Mm-hmm. So the beauty of what we want to do here is like the framework that I think of in terms of lands is like, okay, when we go and send marketing, we're playing slots or something. Like there's a little bit of risk to it, right? It could bomb or we could win really big. What we want to do over time is we want to get that edge more in our favor. And the way we do that is by working in proven markets, right? So in the beginning, you're going to be on this hamster wheel of new market. But as we start validating markets, we should start kind of pushing more of our marketing to those validated areas and less of our marketing to new areas. And as you grow, you'll get this bigger database that you can start utilizing. So when we look at our business, I probably picked like maybe a new market a quarter, maybe two a quarter, depending on like what our initiatives are. And what that means is we just have a higher strike rate because we've proven these markets. Now, what do we mean by proven? Well, we've proven pricing. We've proven that the data is quality. And I also just have a proof of concept to where I'm not scared to double down. Like I would be scared to use that 8 mailer playbook on a new market and mail multiple times in 1 month. And so that's really what we do want to work up to. So for you, Dennis, like looking at the sample size that you have, you got this market, you got 10 contracts in. Mm-hmm. And you got these other markets that bombed. Now, it's not that we don't want to market to those places, but I'm going to like that market where we've proven is going to be on the top of the totem pole in terms of getting my marketing dollars like allocated towards it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I was actually considering remailing that market because, we've had some success. We've already closed on one. We have 2 more we're closing on in the next 2 weeks. Now we haven't went full cycle on it and listed it on the back end. So we don't have our exit prices yet. Mm-hmm. Which kind of would help us with valuations and stuff. But just from the demand in that market and, the realtors and the people we talk to in the area, they tell us the demand is up. So what we did do is while we're waiting to remail that county, we mailed all the counties surrounding it because the demand grows around it too. So,
yep.
We're going to we just mailed out 4 of the surrounding counties, I believe, in that area. So maybe we'll also get some deals out of that as well, in addition to. So
you bring up a really good point. I should come up. One of the things that I'm working on right now, it's kind of a weird initiative, but I think it's actually going to be important. So I'm going through, if you guys know me, if you spent any time with me, I'm a framework guy. Like I love having these little quips, these little frameworks. So one of the things that I'm doing is I'm going through and like naming all of them to where they have like a little kind of like quote unquote trademark to them. It's like everything will have its own little like kind of quick cookie cutter name. I got to think of a name for this framework, but the framework is if you've proven a market and we're remarketing there, what's the next step? So the next step is finding different subdivisions in that same market or different acreage brackets in that same market, different zip codes, whatever you were using for your criteria to break it down. So kind of just like bleeding out further to the different ranges or different pockets within that county. And then same thing, extending adjacently to the counties that surround it. It's rare, it does happen, but it's rare that there's just one hot pocket and then there's just junk surrounding it. Typically, it's not the case. It does exist, but more times than not, one of the best strategies to increase that success rate in terms of having a higher likelihood of mailers working is by going and finding new pockets in the same market or adjacent markets surrounding that proven market. So what you did there is literally spot on. I got to think of like a cool little name, a little quip for that. If you've got anything,
It's
let
like
me know.
I think about it like I'm an electrician, like and before. So like when electricity or lightning strikes, there's usually like these like a wave zone, almost like a ripple in water.
Like a ripple in a puddle, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's a good way to think about it.
What a ripple.
So the next area that I want to move over to, and this is like
Before you go there, Dave had a question about seasonality over time. While we're still on seasonality,
what do you mean seasonality over time?
so he said zoomed out from seasonality. What's your opinion on sustainability over years in the business? So basically, like as you zoom out, how does this business like? Will this turn into wholesaling in general? Like how wholesale is? I mean, I'll speak on that too. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know if this necessarily ties into seasonality per se. It's kind of a different question, more related to like a competition side of things, right? So there's a couple things at play here. All markets mature, right? Any like new fledgling industry eventually does mature, and really that kind of maturation. I'm not sure how you say that. That phase, usually what happens is channels get saturated and new channels are discovered, and so it's kind of the game, right? Like I'll give you an example, Dave. When I first got into this business, land.com was the hot shit, man. That's how you moved your properties like this, like gone. What happened? Land.com got more competitive, so there's more listings on there. Prices rised, so it just became less effective, right? And so in my opinion, we see that first on the disposition side, and then you start to see that on the acquisition side as well, right? So there'll be a point in time where direct mail kind of falls out of favor and cold calling is the new hot thing and so on and so forth. Here's the cool part though. It's just like fashion, right? These things ebb and flow. So like right now, direct mail texting works like gangbusters. There'll be a point in time where there's so many people in the land space that doesn't work anymore. There's a new thing that comes on. People start using that and then it flip-flops, right? I'm not a wholesaling guy per se, but one of the things that I've heard is like if I used to watch like a lot of these Bigger Pockets and Steve Trang and stuff like that back in the day, everyone was shitting on direct mail. And then I've started to hear some wholesalers that have been using direct mail and it works now, right? Because just less people start using it. And so it is very much cyclical like fashion. So I think where we see competition first is on these dispo channels, then it's in acquisitions. If you look at a lot of wholesalers, how do they survive? Well, they've also become like incredible operators, right? We look at a lot of land investors, there's just a lot of slack, a lot of slop, right? They don't have to be that great. And so over time, that bar will start to get raised and you'll have to become a better operator. So you look at a lot of these wholesalers and like their operational excellence is like, it's pretty extreme. Like they know their KPIs like that for everything in their business. Most land investors have no idea about their KPIs. And so I think that like the bar will get raised on what it means to be a great operator. There will be this kind of cyclical turnover for marketing channels, both on dispo and acquisitions. As long as we stay ahead of the puck, it's really not so much of a concern, right? Here's the good news. We're really far out from that. Like it's not going to happen overnight. I like to think, I don't know where I got this from, but I don't know. I just kind of resonates to me. And I wasn't wholesaling in the 90s, but I imagine wholesaling in the 90s or early 2000s is kind of what it's like in the land right now. And so wholesaling didn't become competitive overnight. It took over a decade. And there's still people in the wholesaling space that are killing it, right? It's just the bar has been raised a little bit. And so if you're someone that's inside Leah, I don't want to give you like a, hey, get lazy, you're totally good, but you're way ahead of the curve. I mean, like light years ahead of the curve, right? And so you're probably fine, to be honest. And so, yeah, I don't, it's not like an immediate concern, but I'd be lying if I said that things aren't going to change over time and we're going to have to stay ahead of the puck to stay competitive. But asterisks, here's the cool thing. One, land is really freaking difficult to price and to comp and to understand. That's never going to change, to my understanding, right? Part of what's made wholesaling more competitive is that there's new tools that were created that made the game a little bit easier to like underwrite deals or to like pull data or like all these things, right? And so the space became a lot easier to access. Like if I was wholesaling in the 90s, I'm probably calling the county, getting a crappy list from them, calling the list. But now it's like, dudes just pop on the pop stream. They're like, out of state owner, this, that, put it into this tool that shows me the ARV, bada bing, bada boom. That's just never going to happen in land, right? It's just way too nuanced to price out these properties. And frankly, what I've noticed is it attracts a certain type of person. So I think that there's many wholesalers that just won't like land for that kind of ambiguity, right? So this is definitely not like the everyone business model. I think anyone here can attest to the fact that finding markets, pricing mailers, all that stuff is not necessarily easy, right? The thing about houses too is that like if you spent any time building a buyer's list, dispo is relatively easy. The thing in land is that dispo is actually really effing difficult. And so what we do here with our strategy allows dispo to be a little bit easier, but most people aren't going to start that way. So they're going to come in, they're going to say, like Dennis did in the beginning, no offense, but Dennis like, hey, I'm a real estate guy. I'm a wholesaler. I'm a sub 2 guy. Go pick any old market, send out some marketing, buy a deal. They get stuck with this lemon and like, this is not what I thought it is. And people are going to get deterred. They're going to get turned away, right? Because you can really get stuck with bad inventory in this business. I don't think that's the case for wholesaling as long as you've priced it appropriately, right? Yeah. But that's relatively easy to do because prices are so known for single family houses. Another thing, this is not like wholesaling related per se, but in wholesaling, you're not just competing with other wholesalers, right? Who are we competing with? We're competing with realtors, we're competing with buy and hold investors, we're competing with fix and flippers, competing with hedge funds, novation people, whatever it may be. Land's never going to have that, right? You're never going to get big money in the land space. It just isn't the right fit. In fact, go talk to a big bank. They say, we'll never lend on land for the most part. There's small regional banks that will. And so it's just not attractive to the big players either. And so I think that like in wholesaling, yes, you're competing with other wholesalers, but that's just a fraction of the battle. And so in land, it's like we're going to compete with other land investors. And maybe like, I don't know, some wholesalers that don't know what they're doing that offer stupid prices and try to wholesale contracts for like infill lots. It's not really going to happen with the rural recreational model. One of the reasons I love rural recreational is it's a niche within a niche that's very defensible, right? Infill lots, not so much because you're going to compete with new home builders, with realtors, all those things. The cool thing about rural recreational or just land in general is that the incentives are so misaligned for realtors. They don't even know how to find these properties. They're hard to sell. They're going to have a house they can get a bigger commission check on and sell faster. So yeah, you can tell I've thought a lot about this. At the end of the day, if you're thinking about competition, you're thinking about the wrong things, just in any business, right? I really do believe that you could go into the most saturated industry, whatever that is. I mean, like e-com drop shipping or something, I don't know, and still have results. Right? It's not so much of like this zero sum. There can only be this many land investors or what have you. It is about differentiation, right? So I could probably go and start an e-com drop shipping business, even though it's mega saturated. It's like a total like commodity play. But I guarantee you, I could put my own little Sumner sauce on it and build a little business for myself within there. Now there probably is some glass ceiling that I'm going to hit based off of just the saturation, but I guarantee you, I could build a profitable business in almost any industry. And that's just a testament to having business building skills. And if you have those skills, you really don't need to worry about competition because you can be in competitive markets. You just have to slightly differentiate. I'm talking like a 1 degree difference to have an edge. And so like something as simple as when we look at the 90-day challenge with Dennis, it's like, okay, they made their logo in color. Even that was enough of an uptick to get more responses or to win deals from something so small, so small, right? Same thing with like how you speak to sellers and how responsive you are. Like all those things really add up. The good news is all these Joe Schmo educators in the space, they love to pitch this whole passive income, side hustle, easy. And so it's not. The people that are attracted to this business or they get pulled in by these educators are not business builders. There's very few real business builders in this space. And so even as that number starts to grow, the kind of the audience that's coming in is not one that's going to come and eat your lunch. Now, there are great players in the land space, but they are the minority, not the majority. And it's probably same for wholesaling, right? How many wholesalers just don't have a freaking clue on what they're doing? And the turnover is probably pretty high.
Yeah.
Dave, did that help answer the question?
And then I could also say too, with wholesaling and stuff in general, it's not as like quote unquote, like sexy, right? Because when you talk houses, it's something that's easily sellable. Like you could, You could show it off and all that stuff. Like, I bought this house, all that stuff. It's not as sexy. And it's also like, because you have to actually close on deals, there's also that whole disparity too. Because I mean, we could double close, we could also wholesale here, but for the most part, we're purchasing our properties. With wholesale, it's like no money, you don't have to do anything. You could just do this and then, whatever. So a lot of people get sold on that. That's why there's like, I think there's something like 5 million wholesalers or something like that in
5 million
in the US. Yeah, something like that, if not more. Yeah.
And there's guys still killing it,
Crushing it.
I love. I spend a lot of my free time. I'm kind of a weirdo, but a lot of my free time, I just love studying businesses. Like, to me, that's my joy. I just find it so fun. And I tell people, I'm not a land investor. I don't give a hoot about land investing. I just love building businesses, right? I love thinking about building businesses. And I love studying these really saturated, effed up industries where I still see people killing it, right? It's so funny because what prevented me from coaching, I'll tell you guys a quick story. When I first started my land business, I said, at some point, I am going to become a coach. I've always had the coaching DNA. I don't know. I've always wanted to coach. So I've always found it kind of fulfilling. And I had this like angel and devil sitting on my shoulder for years of being so scared that if I started coaching, this little kind of cool opportunity I have is going to get taken from me. People are going to steal this. And I was so nervous. I was so scared to do that. And so what I started to do to kind of talk myself off the ledge was look at these weird old industries where there's a lot of participants, and yet there's people that are still killing it, right? That's really exciting to me. The other cool thing about land too is kind of in the same vein of what Dennis said. Land requires capital. Wholesaling by virtue really doesn't. I mean, you need marketing, you need, money for marketing and systems and tools and all that stuff. But like, you need money. You need private money to run this business for the most part. There's some different strategies, but for the most part, you do.
Or capital partners to close on your deals for you.
That's what I mean. Yeah, you need either joint venture money or private money, because a lot of these people that are coming into the space are first time entrepreneurs. Like, the idea of raising capital is so foreign to them. The idea of going and getting a contract and dispoing it to someone else is not that foreign. And the thing is, the land business does not lend well to wholesaling because we are selling typically to a consumer. Try assigning a contract to a consumer. It's a nightmare. I do think wholesaling works on infill lots because you can sell to businesses like new home builders. But like, this is just not like a wholesaling business. Like, those wholesalers that are getting beat up in the wholesale space that want to pivot to land, they're going to need an entirely different playbook. Like, it's not going to be like this one-to-one carryover. A one-to-one carryover is saying, I'm a single family wholesaler and I've seen people do this. It's too competitive. So now I'm going to go wholesale hotels, apartments, mobile home parks, whatever it may be. That's a one-to-one carryover. You really don't need to change anything besides the data that you're pulling and how you hold those conversations. It's not this one-to-one carryover to land. That's actually a really good thing for us, because as we're building these skills, these aren't skills that can be mimicked easily, right? We got a few people in the chat. Preston said that kind of got me fired up. I love it. Ryan says that got him fired up as well. I'm going to go through and answer some of these questions real quick before we get into the rest of it. Ben says, do you change your copy when remailing, referencing the first letter? Yes, not always, but yes. You can repeat the same letter, and we've had that be effective. You could change the copy. We've had that be effective. I haven't seen like this noticeable wild uptick in it either way. I do think that if you are going to go, let's say you're going to use that kind of 8 mailer cadence that we talked about, it would be in your best interest to have each one have a unique copy, right? But if we're going to go remail quarterly, it's not a requirement. It's probably wise, but it's certainly not a requirement. I think that, Ben, to go back to your question, like if I went and had a mailer and it totally bombed, I'm probably going to mail again with the same copy so I can have a pretty clear split test. Because if I mail twice or 3 times and I'm getting my ass kicked every time, all right, I'm a human. There's going to be a point in time where I cut the cord, right? But if you're changing it up every time, I don't know, it could be a little hard to read what's going on there. But on the flip side, if I go and send a mailer and we kill it, I think it's more of a push to go and change our copy for that next remailing, next quarter or what have you, if that makes sense. But if I'm really trying to prove out a market, I want to keep things as constant as possible. Now, it's not a cop out to say that you shouldn't be improving your mailer copy. You shouldn't be improving your mailers in general, whether it's size, color, uniqueness. Like, that should be something that's high on your minds, because a lot of times it's free or it's very, very cheap to make those changes, and it can have huge impacts in your business. I want to illustrate something that's so fascinating. again, I've told you guys this before, but I receive God knows how many letters every month, a metric shit ton of letters, because we have so many properties that are being owner financed. So I receive a ridiculous amount. I receive a ridiculous amount of texts. I probably get like 3 to 5 texts a day. I mean, that's not, in the grand scheme of things, not that much, but enough for me to get a pretty good read on what people are doing. Most of the letters I get are identical. Like someone went through some course and they're just copying and pasting the same letter. That's why we don't give you guys just a cookie cutter letter in Leah. We give you guys a framework and then you make it bespoke to you, because it's in no one's best interest just to rinse and repeat the same letters, right? So people are still getting results, all piggybacking off the same template. That's pretty wild. It's a testament to how undersaturated this business is. But again, it's like when we go back to that color example that Dennis changed with the logo and his signature, that was free. And that had huge impacts. Ben did a cool split test with that. He did 1,000 letters, 500 without the color, 500 with the color. Without the color, 0 leads. With the color, 5 leads. Pretty interesting. And that's free, right? Yeah. Now, some of the stuff is going to cost you, but it's going to be a pretty minimal cost that can have huge impacts. Anthony says, I've seen that in some areas. I'm fighting against recent increase in assessed tax values in the county. Sometimes assessment letter gets sent back to the peak market value, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Wildy Pierre, I'll put the link for the ticket in the chat for you, my friend. It's landinvestor.co/event. I'll put that in the chat. All right, Dennis, any questions before we scootle on?
No, I think this is good for everybody because seasonality was a big question. So
okay. Okay. This is a great topic. This is something that I see time and time again with new land investors when they're trying to assess the lack of performance from a campaign. With my question to everyone is it a lead problem or is it a conversion problem? Because they're distinctly different. So obviously we are going to measure the effectiveness of a campaign based off of ROAS, like dollars in, dollars out. At the end of the day, that's the holy grail. But I see a lot of people that say this mailer freaking sucked. And if I go look at their KPIs, it's like, yo, you've got 5 leads from this mailer. Your follow-up was piss poor. Your whole approach to acquisitions was poor. And so you have a conversion problem, not a lead problem. It's very different when you send out a mailer and you literally get a big fat goose egg in terms of leads. Now, same thing though. It could also be you send out a mailer. Let's say you get no true qualified leads, but you do get people that reach out and say, F you, how dare you, blah, 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 blah. So Dennis, those 6 campaigns that you had, tell me, what was this a lead problem? Was this a conversion problem? Or was it just no qualified leads?
Crickets. Like we got, I'm actually pulling up my Pat Live thing right now.
Okay.
So we got on those mailers, what did I get? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 leads out of all those markets. I got 4 leads that said, do not mail me again. Okay. And then the rest were just complete crickets. And then I got 2 actual leads from 2 of the markets. Okay. But they weren't like good leads. Like I offered 190 for a property and the guy was like, is that per acre? And that was, yeah.
So here's my, I'm going to give you kind of like a if this, then that setup. Okay. If you send it out and you get no leads, check the data, right? Like what I would do is I would just cross-reference, grab a few APNs, look them up on the assessor's website. Do we got the right address, the right owner? Either the data can be bad, or sometimes you can actually make a mistake in the mail merge, or the mail house can make a mistake in the mail merge, wrong address, whatever it may be. Like that actually does happen. So I'm going to check the quality of the data. Now, if that all checks out, hey, moving target, not a standing army, right? So we're not over, right? We're gonna do this again. Again, if we validate that this is a good market, it's not time to give up. Now, if it's, hey, we got leads but no deals, it's a conversion issue, and you need to go and ruthlessly look at your acquisition process. I can't tell you how many people are just having poor results because they're not good at acquisitions or they don't have any process to actually handle these leads that are coming in. Just a quick play-by-play. I want to think about speed to lead, so how quickly we're getting in touch. I want to think about speed to offer, so how quickly we're getting that offer to them. We do an intro call, fact find, second call, we create an offer, okay? I want to think about how did we actually deliver that offer? Was that offer delivered based off of their needs? So fact finding what their needs are and delivering an offer based around that? Or is it just a cookie cutter offer based off of the property and what you want to buy it for? All right, remember, we are solving a problem for a seller. Yes, we have to be within the realms of making sense for our business. We can't just go buy willy-nilly whatever the seller wants, but you shouldn't also just be creating offers cookie cutter off of what you think the property is worth, right? So we do need to do some level of fact finding and figuring out where they're at. Are you following our 14-day seller cadence, right? So lead comes in, you call, nothing. You text, nothing. You email, nothing. What do you do next? Well, in our business, we do a 14 business day follow-up cadence, multiple touches each day. And that's going to maximize response rate. What a lot of people do is like, no response, put them onto a drip campaign and see you later. I just find the drip campaigns have such a terrible response rate and set a really bad tone with the leads. So we go through that 14-day manual cadence, and then we'll move them to a drip campaign if need be. And then beyond that, are you having, whatever it may be, quarterly, monthly, biannual, annual, whatever it may be, touches to old leads? I had a question inside Leah for our Pebble training on Friday. And what the question was, we have 2 different fields inside Pebble. One of them is bad properties. That's a stage. One of them is dead lead. That's a stage. And someone asked, well, why don't you just push those together? Aren't they kind of the same thing? And it's like, no, they're not the same thing. Because a bad property, we have no business following up there. We don't even want the asset. Dead lead, we do need to follow up with, right? So that person, we need to still stay in their orbit. And the frequency is going to change based off of where they're at, based off what that initial conversation is. You got to set those follow-up tasks bespoke to the person or create a process around it. Once you get outside of that 14-day seller cadence and you've put them onto a drip campaign, it's not about having an ultra high frequency. Like, you don't need to be following up every week or even every month, but you do need to stay in their world. I would say as a minimum, a once a quarter follow-up, right? That just shake the tree. At any given moment, if you've been mailing in this business for over a year, I can guarantee you there's at least 5 contracts sitting in your CRM right now that the tree just needs to be shaken, right? And so there's money in there that can take a bad campaign to a really good campaign. Because again, a lot of times it's the difference of just one deal to make a campaign, the math pencil really well. Now, the last thing to think about, the if, then, this, that, if this, then that, the last thing to think about were angry responses. So we send out a campaign and we just get bombarded with angry responses. Okay, it probably was a pricing issue. And going back and reviewing our pricing, those first 2 situations, price can be an influence, but if we weren't getting screaming, shouting negativity for the entirety of the responses, it's probably not solely a pricing issue. It's probably that standing army moving target issue, right? Again, going back to my Los Animas County mailer example, mailed, no responses, mailed again with a lower price, 3 contracts. So, price isn't always the thing. Sometimes it's just showing up and catching people at the right time. So much of direct mail is just timing, dude. And that's another thing to go back to Dave's question about competition. I've mailed the most competitive counties probably once a year in the land business, and I still pull contracts from them profitably. And that's just a timing component. You just catch the person at the right time, the right place. Heck, Dennis could go mail them a week ago, and he could warm them up to the idea. Then get a mailer from me, and that they either think I'm Dennis or they just said, fuck it, now I'm ready to sell, right? We do that all the time. And you know what? I got a stack of mailers sitting on my desk, but I just got yours and something told me to call you.
Yeah, that happened to me this morning. I had a guy, he called me back and he's like, hey, I get like 10 of these a day, and he owns a bunch of properties. And he's like, but I just decided to call you and whatever. Talking to him, I didn't like the property. It's landlocked total. I told him we give him basically nothing for the property, but we were just talking, and he ends up talking to me and he's like, I have a 160 acre parcel that, it might be good for a subdivision. I just don't want to do it. Do you do that stuff? And I was like, yeah, let's talk about it. So it's just like time. You never know. Your letter just hits. He just decides to call you.
Yep.
So yeah,
that timing thing is a huge piece. I cannot discount that, right? And that works in our favor, but sometimes it also works against us, right? Looking at Dennis's call this morning, he got 10 contracts in markets, people got no contracts, and vice versa. That's just kind of how the cookie crumbles. I saw Ben share this earlier inside Discord, and I wanted to share this here as well. We got to think about scaling offer percent and expectations based off of price. So Ben said, hey, you know what? I wasn't really happy with my last month or 2 months of mailing results. But he did say everything I've been mailing has been over 100K, and I was mailing at 45% of market value, and whatever market value was to him, which there could be a misunderstanding on market value that could also shift that true offer percent. But we also have to take into mind that as we go up market, offer percentage is going to have to come up as well. Not to say you can't go get deals at 45% of market value, it's just way harder. And so that market is more affluent, like the owners are more affluent, they've got optionality, they're less motivated to do these fire sales and sell quickly. They're usually just less distressed in general. And so thinking about as we're going up market, your offer percentage needs to adjust as well. The other thing is your expectations need to adjust as well. So in Ben's example, he's going after everything is 6 figures plus. I mean, it's obviously market dependent, but if I have a deal, let's say I'm going after deals that are going to net me 6 figures, which in most cases, if I'm going over properties that are over 100 grand, pretty much always looking to double our money as a bare minimum. So yeah, you could say those are all going to be 6-figure spreads. In my mind, my expectation is like 10,000 mailers per deal. That might not be true. Sometimes I get it better, but I'm going to think about 10,000 mailers for a single deal. That math pans out to 5 grand to go make 6 figures plus. I mean, the ROAS is bananas. And in fact, the ROAS, what I've found on these bigger properties can actually be better. That's a 20x ROAS, even at $100,000 profit. And so I find the ROAS can be better, but the expectation is different and it's scary. So Ben probably sent cumulatively in the last 2 months 10,000 mailers, and he's mad that he hasn't got a contract from those. But the thing is, you got to send way more mail. So his expectations are way different, right? It's not going to scale proportionally where it's like, okay, 2,500 letters. That's going to be the same for these big properties, the same for the small properties. It doesn't pan out that way. And again, it's not even like this one-to-one relationship, right? I find it just takes a lot more mail to get these big deals. In fact, I found for these big subdivided properties, I mean, it could be tens of thousands of mailers to get a single deal. But those deals could net us 300, 400, 500K plus. The math still pans out. Ben says, Dennis brought up a good point on our call this morning that it probably not 1 to 2,500 either for upmarket deals. Yep. It's going to be substantially more. I think 10,000 mailers, the expectation of 10,000 mailers for one big deal is pretty fair. You'll probably fare a little bit better than that, frankly. But you'll also probably have compressed spreads. So you're probably going to get more deals than you're probably going to be a little bit lower than that. So maybe it's 7,500 per letter or what have you, but you're also probably going to get deals that are a little less than 100K spread, right? So you're going after 6-figure deals, but you honestly might take deals that make you 80K, 75K. But in truth, it probably takes you 7,500 mailers, 8,000, whatever it may be. But I want to kind of overestimate what it's actually going to take. And that way I keep a level head when I start seeing these results coming in. So I really, really can't stress enough. You guys have to really set expectations with yourself about what it's actually going to take, because the expectations influence your mood, which influence how you show up in your business and influences what you do this month. And so if all the wind is taken out of your sails and you feel deflated because you set unrealistic expectations, that's going to have like really negative cascading effects in terms of how you show up now. Instead, if I set that bar really high in terms of my expectation and I get a letter for every 7,500 deals, I might get the same results as Ben, but I'm jumping up and down. I'm excited because I beat my expectation. And Ben is pissed because he was, the expectation was way higher, even though we got the same exact results. So I think it's just really interesting how that can kind of shift what you do next, right? So expectations in marketing are huge, but in life even more so. Can't stress that enough, right? Now here's my question to you guys. Would you do a deal that's going to cost you $5,000 in marketing? It's going to make you 100K. Who here would do that deal? Put it in the chat. Say yes if you would do that deal.
Can I tell you, when I had my Homevestors franchise,
yes,
their selling point was, what if I told you you could put in $5,000 and get back 15,000? That was their selling point.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, that sounds great.
Right. We're absolutely spoiled in this business. I just think that sometimes we can really lose perspective on how good we got it. I want someone to find any other business where you can put in 5 grand into marketing and reliably get a 6-figure deal. So Ben says this whole year, he sent 15,000 mailers and got $100,000 plus deal. So that's 7,500 in spend. That's $100,000 plus deal. Here's the catch though. Those mailers haven't even fully seasoned. He's still going to get more from it, right? Mm-hmm. The game's not over. And so there's still leads in his pipeline. There's still leads that haven't come in yet. There's still deals that haven't come in. So like the full weighted effect of this is ginormous. I really think that like legitimately you need a year to fully see the fruits of your labor from any given campaign. That sounds crazy, but it's true. And so in the beginning, it's like, just give yourself some grace and whatever you need to do to ensure that you don't get moody and step off the gas pedal for marketing, you need to do. I don't care if you need to like jump up and down and dance in the morning, if you need to write mantras down, if you need to like beat on your chest, like whatever you need to do to keep that mood high so you don't deviate from the plan has got to be priority from you. Because I've been there when you get sad, when you get deflated, are you really going to market? Probably not. And even if you do, the quality of the work that you produce is going to be probably not the best, right? There is a component of quality to everything that we do here. Alex says, I just started a warm phone call qualifying script that goes with neutral letters. If I just can't figure out pricing, I've started doing 50-50 range or neutral letters. Yeah. So Alex has got a little more support than most people in terms of team. I think as you start building a team, you can start deviating from just blind offers and allow you to tap into markets that otherwise were just totally off limits. I will say, even with Alex's team, he's definitely going to hit a point where he just can't take on any more neutral letters because you will get so many leads and it will start to overwhelm your team, right? And they'll start missing things. It's kind of how it goes. Any questions on that, Dennis?
No, that was pretty good, honestly. I can say though, after like sometimes when you get markets that don't hit, you're like, this sucks, I shouldn't keep going. But it's the opposite. You should push harder.
Yeah.
Instead of saying like, let me pull back. Maybe I did something wrong. No, maybe it's not you. Maybe it's just sometimes you just got to let stuff season. It takes time. So just push harder and keep finding more markets.
Yeah, dude, it's so funny. I shared this inside Discord last week. It's one of my favorite little memes. I always think about it when I start to get a little moody. It's that meme of the guy with the pickaxe in the cave. Mm-hmm. And it's like this guy's going really hard, but he's super far away. And it's the guy that's turning around that's like a foot away from the gold. That's usually what it's like. You know, it's like it's a pretty damn honest approach to how it goes. Another meme, I'm not a big meme guy, but I love thinking about this one. I think it's called like the Nimwit meme or something like that. It's like the total beginner is so ignorant that he's like kind of careless. He's not concerned about expectations. He doesn't hold himself to a high standard. And as a byproduct, he gets results from it, right? The guy that's in the middle tasted a little bit of success. He starts holding a really high standard. He wants to control everything. Everything's need to be micromanaged. He gets so mad based off of the day-to-day results. That's the person in the middle. And then the Jedi Master has the same mindset as the beginner. They almost force ignorance to where it's like, it's all good, baby. Send out the mailers, good things happen, right? Like that is the ninja mindset. The mindset that when you're in that middle pocket and you start getting results and you want to micromanage and everything's got to be perfect, and you want to control outcomes, that is the worst thinking you can bring to any business, let alone a land business. And so like I find these beginners that come in, a good example is like Anthony Reese. I want to call him out. I don't know if he's on this call. Anthony came in, no real estate experience. Like this is a totally new dance for him. Just starts going after bigger deals, just like really friendly on the phone with sellers, and it starts locking up six-figure deals, and just like crushing it out of the gate. And there's people that have had a little bit of success. They think they know everything, and they want to hold everything to a certain standard, and they get so mad when it doesn't work out. And there's people like me who are like, I mean, I still have my own problems, but like, you know, you're just a little more like, hey, I trust the system. It's worked out. It's going to work out again. And you don't micromanage that day to day. So don't be that nimwit in the middle, right? Either be the ignorant beginner or be that advanced ninja who almost forces ignorance and understands that if you do the right things day to day, you don't need to manage outcomes. They will be delivered to you and you'll have a whole lot better of a time doing it. You can make yourself miserable in this business trying to micromanage. A lot of what we do is so far out of our control. What is in our control? The markets that we select, the deals we say yes or no to, and how we deliver our offers. Yeah. Everything else, like, don't worry about it. The response rate bombed. Don't worry about it. Just do the next thing and keep on working.
See, I was the nimwit in that. Because technically, like, I know what I'm doing in real estate. Why isn't this working for me?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to share something with you guys that I think will be valuable.
Anthony Reese is here.
Anthony Reese is on the call. I'm going to answer his question. I'm going to share with you guys a webinar that I put together too that I think is going to be helpful. You guys see it in that little chat bar down below. I'll put it in the chat for you guys. Something we're kind of slowly unveiling. I haven't really publicly released this, but I'm going to share that with you guys. It's definitely worth a watch, about 32 minutes. And it talks about kind of like the 5 commonalities that I've seen for successful land investors. So it's free. It's worth a watch. So Anthony says, I'm here, LOL. How often do you re-pull new data on the same market? Look back at some of my data when I was looking at prices and some of the properties are listed or sold. Do I need new data? It definitely depends on the market, right? Some markets turn over, like we've seen, every 3 months. Like there's so much turnover. Some markets takes way longer. If I had to generalize, usually what I tell people is about a year. I think you can get away with bad data for about a year. But Anthony, if you're looking at the data and you're like, dude, this is a super hot market, there's like 100 properties trading a month and there's only 5,000 records here. Well, you do the math, right? There's going to be a lot that turns over. And so, yeah, you might want to pull new data. I typically would say it's very, very rare that you have to pull under a year, though. It's got to be like a smoking hot market. So a year, it's good enough for me. One of the things that we're working on for the group, which kind of removes that as an issue, is a discounted Land Vision subscription. I think we've got like 19 or 20 people that are signing up with us. No one's making any money on it, but Jerry went and brokered a really good discount for the group. I think it's supposed to be like almost $6,000, and we got it at a much better price. If you're inside the Leah private channel, you guys have seen the pricing on that. And that gives you free unlimited data. So Anthony, in that example, hell, I'd pull new data every time I mail.
Yeah, why not?
Nothing, right? That's easy. But if you're on data tree, it can add up. So I'd say about a year. If you're doing like 10,000 mailers and beyond, and you expect to grow, the math quickly pencils on Land Vision, like very, very quickly. The other thing is there's a bunch of additional features and tools and maps and views and zoning overlays and all these things that we actually don't get access to inside data tree. And they also have some really nifty stuff with like Redfin data and all that jazz. Anyone else have any more questions? Anything you guys want to share in the chat while we're all here? Anything I can help with? Could be related to this topic, could be separate. Otherwise, we'll call it a day here. I hope this was helpful. I think the takeaway here, just relax, focus on what you can control, keep doing that. Don't get discouraged and understand that it's a moving target. It's not a standing army. So don't prejudge results based off of one mailer, but do go through that 3-step kind of if this, then that statement to figure out what that next step is based off of the results from the mailer, right? Reflect on that and use that as your framework to decide what's the next step based off the results from this mailer. And that will kind of take away any of the ambiguity in terms of what you should do. Other than that, I hope everyone has a great day. Dennis, thanks for joining us here and for spearheading the call with the Leah members. I hope this was helpful. Keep mailing, keep doing deals, and good things will happen. All right, guys, we'll see you later. Bye.
Later.